let's get started on the vendor and customer transactions. First off, my summary mentions this table. If you look at the table, you'll see that these are the types of lists that you're going to be using to record these types of transactions. So you'll have an item list. It's going to be in a vendor transaction, but you'll also see that in the customers and invoices, you're going to be using item lists. Okay, you're also going to be using items to create purchase orders. So then, of course, because it's part of the item list, you're going to receive items from the purchase orders, and they are all tracked over here in the item list. So these are all really important areas. Of course, you know, the items all have associations with your chart of accounts, which is, of course, the granddaddy of all. So let's come to the item list, and you'll see that it's used to sell or buy anything, any kind of a customer transaction. Okay. Now, when you look at your lists and your item list, I showed you briefly this one before. The item lists have several different types of items that you can choose. So you can see that you can use an item list to create a service, and you would use that like something that you're getting in income from would be a service, you know, such as consulting or something to that effect. And then also you have inventory parts, which could be something that you're actually tracking for your business. You know, I know, you know, some of you, one person was in the concrete business, some of you are in construction business. Perhaps you might have, this company that we're working with has doors and door pulls and stuff like that they're tracking. You don't have to track all inventory, but you have to decide which ones you do want to track. Okay, then you have your inventory assembly. You can use that. You could use that for all the different aspects of putting something together, all the inventory that goes into assembling a product. And so there's many different ways to work with these item groups, but this is just kind of give you an idea. Now, we just also discussed briefly sales tax items and sales tax groups. Okay, if we go into those, and we will a little bit later, if I say that it's a sales tax item, let's just go there for a second. See, I have the option of saying what the name of it is. So like, let's say that I had a sales tax item for Cal Poly purchases. And so maybe Cal Poly sales tax. And then they're all paid to the same agency. And in California, it's the State Board of Equalization. And that's what we're using here. Okay, so let's say that everybody else in the state gets 7.5% interest and Cal Poly gets 7%. That would just mean that I would go ahead and charge that interest rate, but I have to pull it when I create an invoice or any of those types of things if I'm charging sales tax. So this just gives you a basis of how it's working. Your tax agency is where you're going to be paying the tax. So that's QuickBooks is compiling all that information as the transactions occur. So if I just make this one of my replace, I'll just have it ignore. Okay, so now I have an extra sales tax item. It's still going into sales tax payable, and it's all, see, all these sales tax items that we have on here are all going to the same place, the State Board of Equalization. So it just depends on where you choose. This one is good. This one obviously is giving a 3% tax. That's a 7.5% tax. And let's see what this one is. That's a 7.775% tax. So you've got all these different taxes that you can pull. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it because it's really going to depend on your business, and it's going to depend on when you're selling and actually where you're selling it from. So it's just nice to know that it is available here. Okay, so let's go back into items. And we talked about service items. And see, as you can see, many of these service items, like take this one. You just want to make a service item for something that you want to track. This one happens to be blueprints, and the income account is design income. And then you may or may not have noticed there was several design income tracking. And whenever you see account, that's coming from your chart of accounts. So it's just to give you some of the detail that's going on here. You also have inventory items. So let's come down and just look at an inventory part. Here's one with some account to it. So this is cabinets, and then we have cabinet poles. So these are subcategories under cabinets. So if I was to pull everything that had to do with cabinets and just look at the report, see, it's going to summarize how much I have on hand that has to do with cabinets. See, I have in cabinet poles, I have 422 on hand right now. Okay, and of course it's coming to this particular date. So it's just giving me bits of information regarding my my purchases for cabinets. So let's come back to my item list and let's take another look at that. So let's go into cabinet poles again and take a look at how it's distributed. Okay, now in the real world, if you're selling an item, you have what you call cost of goods. That's the amount of money that you spend on that particular item. And then you have your selling price, which is usually different than the cost of goods. So you have your cost of goods here at $3 and your selling price at 6 or 12 or whatever you've chosen. This particular item is not priced at, but I could put it in at 6. And that would mean that my customers would get charged the $6, but it's costing me 3. So that's just to give you an idea how QuickBooks is going to work with your profits. Now, the one thing that you have to be careful of, though, is that if you look, because it was at 0 before and I changed it to 6, look down here, you now have an average cost of what's on hand. So you have to needs to be careful. You need to be careful on putting in your selling prices and your cost of goods. Don't just throw out a guessing price. Try to be a little bit more exact, because what's going to happen is as you sell these items off, let's say that I go and I sell that item at $12 instead of 6, then it's going to change this average cost when it's sold. So you want to make sure that you're paying close attention to what you're selling, and or it's going to change your profit. In other words, this is an average cost. It's probably been bought at less than the $3 price. That's the reason why the average cost is 2.559. Okay, now let's look at what is going on in there. Okay, now for the selling price, we have an income account. So in this case, it's materials income. Instead of labor, it's, you're just tracking which account it's coming through. So that's coming from my chart of accounts. And now if I look over here, I've got my cost of goods account. And you can have, I mean, this is just a general cost of goods account, but see, you've also got cost of goods for job expenses, bond expenses. That's really up to you, but this is a cost of something that I'm selling. So that's the reason why it's split out. And you just need to be consistent. That's what's most important, is then you can watch what's going on with that particular inventory item. And QuickBooks will track that inventory for you. Okay, so we also have non-inventory items. And if you look at a non-inventory item, you'll see that there is no cost of goods area. Okay, what this is coming from where, and if it's taxable, where's it going? So it's going as it's taxable. It's going to materials income, and the expense, this is coming out of cost of goods sold. So just to show you for that particular, for a non-inventory item. So when you're working with the items area, you always have to, you're going to have to fill out various things. And if you look in my textbook, it's telling you to go into the item and services and look at these particular areas: the item name, description, type, account used, quantity on hand, and price. All right, now when you go scroll further down, you are setting up a new item. So you're going to be going through and setting up a new item and working through the item area. Okay, now this one is bifold doors. Okay, so I'll go ahead and set one of those up for you. If we look, it's under wood door. Yeah, we're setting up a bifold door. So let me set it up for you, and you can see what I would do. Okay, so this one is an inventory part. So we choose inventory part and we put in bifold doors. And it's a sub item. So that's going to come under a wood door. And then we have a manufacturer part number. And of course, that would just be a number for your own reference. And we've got the cost, which is $45. And then we can put the vendor that we use, which is Colby, K-O-L. Let's see if they're in here. I might have added them later. Should have added them by now. It doesn't look like I've added them to this company. So I'll go ahead and add them now. Okay, so it's just a quick add. And then we have the selling price at $70. And it's taxable. And we're putting it in construction income. And it would be materials income. Yeah, right here. And let's see. The reorder point is at 2. And we have 0 on hand at this point. Okay, so I added it here under wood doors. Now, what I want to do is go ahead and fill the rest of this out. Oh, there was one other thing that I missed, though, when I was reading through, is the description should be here. So it should be a door. Okay. All right, so that's a bifold interior door, and we've got it there. And click OK.